Welcome to the historic neighborhood of Driftwood in South St. Petersburg, Florida. Today we have the opportunity to go through this beautiful landscape with the landscape designer and the homeowner to ask them all the questions you've ever wondered about how all of this comes together. Come check it out, guys.
When we first started with the whole landscape process, we were a little bit more preoccupied with getting the house finished. Once we had the plan and we approved the plants, Arnie just came in and started his work. First, he removed the invasive and undesirable plants that we had around, which left some gaping holes. There were a lot of undesirable plants here. But then he went with filling in and creating these little islands, these special areas as you see around, and everything just kept getting better.
It's kind of important to come multiple times, I think, to a project to really get a feel and understanding for kind of the unique characteristics of the site. And initial visits kind of showed me pretty much a blank slate around the house, but then there was an existing canopy, some mature trees, some really nice slash pine, and then a few other areas of kind of like congregated plants that we could kind of play off of. But we were going to have to add quite a bit. Actually added over 100 species of plants, primarily native. We have some edibles on site as well. But finding those particular nooks and little areas for them was really, really important. Another concern for the owners was putting habitat back because the construction process of this house basically took a lot of it away. So we wanted to be able to give them opportunities to come back into the landscape with some berry producing plants, pollinator friendly plants, things like that, native grasses, really wonderful ways to bring those critters back into your landscape and make it a habitable home for them as well.
We were very strong on pro-pollinator plants, on food sources for wildlife. The birds have always been around. We've always had a lot of birds. We're right on the coast, obviously. But I've started to see more butterflies coming in. The yard is set up with multiple stages, so there should always be something in bloom. So we're hopefully a little oasis of habitat.
The landscape is kind of unique in that it combines a lot of different habitat zones. We're really close to the water, so we have coastal situation. So salt tolerance is really an important factor for selecting plants that go, in those areas closer to the ocean. But those can also be brought a little upland to kind of create a nice homogeneity between the design by the water and also the design closer to the house and other parts of the landscape. Another interesting thing is as you transition to the house, the canopy gets a lot thicker. There's a lot more shade. The moisture stays there a little bit longer. So we did transition to some species that could handle a little bit of those types of conditions, like hammock twinflower, some evergreen magnolias, Walter's viburnum, different things like that were then used as foundation plantings around the house, and again repeating those patterns. So it's one thing I like to do in a design is to pick up certain things and then repeat them as a pattern throughout the landscape so that there's continuity of design. Things, they don't look all the same, but it's one of those things where we can kind of create a cohesiveness to the design and just have it look like everything belongs.
One of the things that was very important to me is to ensure that we have as much permeable land surface as possible, so that water, when we get tide coming in, when we get heavy rains, the water has somewhere to go that is not a negative. You know, we're not washing all kinds of things into the bayou.
Because a lot of the water that comes from our neighborhoods and urban areas carries a lot of heavy metals, pollutants, fertilizer, etc., that gets into the bay and then causes all kinds of problems. So in dealing with drainage on this site, they already had a pre-existing drain that went under the house, which is very unique. So we basically wanted to be able to tap into that, but then have it outlet in an area that we could basically take advantage of that passive water. So we chose a couple of different areas in the landscape to basically have the water spill out and then basically get soaked up before it gets to the bay. So it actually has a double purpose. It takes care of the drainage, it gets it away from the house, puts it in an area that actually will then benefit the landscape through passive irrigation. We have an area over to the other side over here where we have a lot of banana trees, and so bananas, they like that extra water. Also have another area on the other side of the yard where we put a lot of interesting native plants like marlberry, myrcene, things that actually would like that excess moisture as well, and will basically be beneficial and kind of a problem solver plant areas where they can kind of help us deal with certain issues like the drainage, etc. We also added a lot of gravel. We created some swaling on site. Berman swale is a technique that's used in a lot of landscaping, permaculture, and other aspects of landscaping, but it's very effective in channeling and managing stormwater on a site. And it's nice because you can then disguise these areas with plants. They grow over. You don't really see them so much, so they're not very visible, but we know they're there and they're intentional, and they're very, very effective. Or the part of the landscape that I think was probably most successful and most effective is the Meadow area. I really like that because it frames up not only the pool area when you're looking from the house, but it also from the house it frames up the rest of the landscape kind of going out to the bay, and it really gives you that kind of nice coastal feel. We have a lot of grasses there, muley grass, which is one of our favorites, and then a lot of perennials that which will basically ebb and flow through the seasons, and it also brings a lot of interesting wildlife in terms of butterflies, bees, even some songbirds come in to eat some seeds and insects. And so it creates a really wonderful habitat garden right next to the house. They can look at it from the house or from the landscape and interact with it in a very easy way. And I think all of that kind of dovetails really nicely together and gives that area a nice structure. So we're standing next to a wonderful native plant, native tree for Florida and for coastal landscapes, but you can also use it in a variety of situations in your landscape. So it doesn't necessarily have to stay in the coastal area. This could be used in an upland garden or as a specimen tree, say along a walkway to your front door. The reason I love this plant is because it's got that wonderful oval glossy green foliage, and this is black ironwood, Crugiodendron ferium. And it's a fantastic addition to the Florida landscape, to the coastal Florida landscape, and one of those plants that has many benefits. The blooms are really wonderful, good for pollinators early in the season, and then it does have some small fruits to it. The main feature of this is its character, though. I do think that the kind of gnarled appearance or the kind of contorted appearance that it can get is really a wonderful character addition to your landscape. Another nice thing about this tree is it's not a very large size. It's kind of a mid-sized tree, 20-25 feet maybe. With pruning, as we've done with this, we've kind of shaped the crown a little bit as it transitions and grows into maturity. It can kind of maintain a little bit more of a kind of a compact crown. They can get a little open with age and time, which is not necessarily a bad thing because it'll allow sunlight to get below to whatever understory you have. So here we have some coonties and beach creeper planted underneath, which will be the nice understory or ground cover for it, allowing this to be a really nice kind of section of the landscape. Toward the front of the house, it's a little more upland, but there is some issue in terms of the way the ground slopes toward the house, and so we wanted to catch any stormwater that got in that area, keep it away from the house, kind of channel it and funnel it around the house. And one way we did that is by introducing some brick edging and then some gravel pathways around the site. And the brick is interesting because that was all on site. As we were digging holes for trees, the brick, we basically unearthed several pallets of it, and we were able to use it as a nice character. As you can see, it lends itself to kind of a historical portion of the landscape because it was probably used for something else on site many years ago. And a variety of bricks were in the mix as well. Some were structural bricks, some were actually paver bricks, and then even some really antique bricks with a nice text on them. So kind of very unique and a nice character piece to the landscape. The gravel we used was a little bit larger. It's a 3/4 inch gravel. And that's nice because you can still walk on it. It's very stable, but it does allow for a lot of infiltration into the landscape, so the water can kind of percolate gently as it moves around and kind of goes along the stream bed or swale around the house. Some of the trees we planted here and plants are myrcene right here, and that's a nice accent shrub. It can be maintained a little tighter if you want to prune it, or let it go a little more natural, however you want to maintain your landscape. Next to that over by the deck is marlberry, and that's another nice native for songbirds. It does bloom. It's followed by berries in the summer and fall, and so the songbirds really love that. Very plump, juicy berries, and also the thickness of the shrub allows for them to build nests in there, to hide from prey, etc. So it offers a lot of opportunities for these fragile members of our ecosystem. Further up, we have some softleaf coffee. There's a flatwoods plum. There's some native azaleas, and then there's another area on the other side of the front entrance to the house. Why don't we go take a look at that and can discuss it a little bit more. So the continuation of our swale is actually over here. This is probably where the first part of the swale starts. Actually, we started in the section over there. But as you can see, we've got a lot of sloping going on in the landscape. We have some pea gravel out on the driveway, which is really nice. And then as it transitions out of there, the stormwater, we needed to channel it to our drains and also work it around the house. So we created two swales, one on either side of the main walkway. One of them, the one I'm standing in, actually goes to a drain over to our left, and it will go under the house and then back out to the backyard. Again, we use the same pea gravel here, 3/4 inch, and then edging the pathway, which is a really wonderful species called hammock twinflower. It's got a very nice kind of tight leaf habit to it, little blue flowers all over the plant. It's also a larval host for butterfly, common buckeye butterfly, and it's a really fantastic plant. I mean, it's probably one of my go-to plants for semi-shade to full sun. With irrigation, it can handle full sun, and as you can see, it has a really nice quality as an edging plant. Back behind me here is another nice native tree, and it's called fiddlewood. Fiddlewood's great because it's, again, has a nice arcing habit, so it has almost an informal quality to it. It does have one of the most fragrant blooms of our natives, so putting it near an entrance or a walkway where you will get that fragrance, I think it's really important to add another area of interest to your landscape. Fragrance is one of those things. We have a lot of memories that are kind of like keyed into fragrance and that kind of thing. And anytime you can kind of incorporate fragrance or that aroma into your landscape, I think is a great idea. The other plants in the area, we have some coontie palm, which is a fantastic bulletproof evergreen ground cover, we call it, but it can also act as a standalone specimen. So standing next to one of our favorite feature plants this is lignum vitae. It's a tree of life in Latin. So this is one of our favorite smaller trees to mid-sized trees. It has really nice kind of oval-shaped foliage. The branches have a kind of arcing or arching habit, which is really kind of a nice feature as well. Not super fast growing. It will bloom though, and it has a very attractive bloom, almost kind of a powder or electric blue, really showy when it's in bloom. And then the interesting thing too is the seed heads have a very nice color palette as well, and they really do show off after the bloom. So it has a kind of a double season of interest, and a very unique plant. It's actually used quite a bit in woodworking. It's a nice dense wood. You know, it's a very attractive tree. It's nice for small areas in your landscape next to a front entrance. It's primarily where I use it. Again, it's easily manageable. Pruning is very simple on this. And as you can see, it just has a nice character right out the box. It's not something that requires extensive or very intensive maintenance either, which is one reason we really like it. It's drought tolerant once established. Here it's planted in a swale, but it's basically just on the side of the swale, so it's not going to stand in water. It's going to soak up some of that passive water though, and so a good plant for kind of unusual areas of your landscape or as a focal point at the front entrance.
We love watching the birds in this area. We have seabirds and coastline birds like the osprey, the ibis. We have ducks, the egret, herons, night heron. But we've been so excited to also see owls, including a great horned owl. We have bald eagles that come by, which is just an unbelievable experience to have a bald eagle on your land. Woodpeckers. We have a nice pileated woodpecker that fortunately prefers my neighbor's trees to mine. It says mine are healthier. But everything that we see, there's more to see, there's more to experience, the different times of day, the different weather. It's just an ongoing kaleidoscope of wildlife.
So thanks for coming on another one of our landscape tours, guys. This was really fun. Hopefully you guys saw some of the cool native plants that we stuck in here. If you or anyone you know has a really cool native yard, go ahead and leave us a comment, and you could be one of the features on our channel. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys.